wanted to go to the US. It was the place you wanted to be. And now there's a lot of worry around the world. And there's even YouTube sites like Guard the Leaf who are just dedicated to talking about this boycott, and whole communities that are discussing it.
I want to start off this video by thanking Professor Wayne Smith from the Toronto Metropolitan University for giving me a shout out on CBC Radio when he had a conversation with Ian Homansing. I'm going to go over his discussion a little bit later. Now, many of you are watching this as this video comes out, and you're waking up to some sadness. I think every Canadian would have loved to have a better result. But it is what it is. And I'm still proud of our team. It's probably one of the best hockey games you watched Team Canada play since the 2010 Olympics. Personally, I'm not a fan of the 3-on-3 in overtime. And to be honest, I thought some of the reffing was questionable. But I'm still proud of Team Canada, and so is our Prime Minister and millions of other Canadians as well. But this guy here, he was shown quite frequently on TV. And to be honest, I was surprised that he wasn't in the US dressing room celebrating with Kash Patel. Apparently he deleted this video after, so I'm going to make sure it sticks around. If I was a US citizen, I'd be pretty pissed, because he used taxpayers' money to fly all the way to Italy just so he could celebrate with Team USA. I know he said he's there for meetings, but we're all not stupid. And speaking of stupid, look at this congressman, following the footsteps of the orange dictator. I mean, when you see comments like this, it's really hard to have any sympathy for the United States. So I just wanted to show this to everyone in case you haven't seen it. And maybe it'll add fuel to your boycott of the United States. And to the people that say that my channel is just full of hate, hey, I'm just showing what the US government is saying. So go direct your anger at them, not me. Now there's a few things I want to talk about in this video. It's been reported that the TSA pre-check has been suspended, and that would affect all Canadian airports as well. Now by the time I got home from work, I saw more reports saying that it's open again. So which is it? Is it closed or open? And what kind of clowns are running this department? Oh, never mind. I get it now. So I'm going to talk about this in today's video, as well as commenting on some points in Ian Homansing's podcast. The backdrop that you're looking at today comes from Evelyn, and she took this photo of the Northern Lights in Yellowknife. Her husband Brian sent it over to me, and I definitely wanted to share this with the community. So thank you, Evelyn and Brian, for sending this over to me. Now, the first article I want to talk about is headline, Vancouver Airport says next is suspended, citing US government shutdown. And this article was posted in the evening in Vancouver time. So if I'm looking at my clock right now, it's not that long ago. And YVR even posted it out that there's going to be disruptions. Now I know a disruption like this is not going to affect many of us because we're still not going to the United States. But there are still business travelers and people going to visit their family. And I guess those who really don't care. But regardless, it's still an interruption. Now even before I can get home to get started on this video, I see another video that says it's canceled. And here it is.
Travelers across the country, including here in San Diego, were left confused this weekend after the Department of Homeland Security initially announced it was suspending TSA pre-check lanes during the partial government shutdown, only for the Transportation Security Administration to later clarify that pre-check will remain operational. Our reporter Wiley Jahari is live at the San Diego International Airport with what passengers need to know. Hey, Wiley.
Hey, Danica. There's a lot of confusion here today at San Diego International Airport. First, the Department of Homeland Security came out and said that all TSA pre-check lanes and global entry lanes would be closed. And then a few hours later, they backtracked and said that everything would be operational. Now, this is all due to the partial government shutdown. And as of right now, those lanes are operating, but it's good to know that if staffing becomes an issue, all of that could change.
Now, my primary focus to show everyone this is to show the inconsistency with the Department of Homeland Security. And let's not forget, not too long ago, CBP closed down the airspace within El Paso because they thought there was a threat, and it was actually just a party balloon. So I have to think, the so-called greatest country in the world that has one of the largest military spendings and advanced technology can't identify a party balloon or figure out a 24/7 rotational schedule. So I ask again, what kind of clown show of a department is this? And would I trust my safety in this department right now?
just have no idea if it's open or closed or if I needed to prepare.
Confusion at San Diego International Airport this weekend.
And then I've seen various different things about it being open again and then closed.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security initially announcing it would suspend TSA pre-check lanes during the partial government shutdown, a move that would have forced millions of registered travelers into regular security lines.
And it does seem like more recently there have been disruptions to what is usually a smooth travel process, longer lines, not as much staff and things like that. So it's frustrating.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one that sees it. Because I read over so many reports and watch so many videos that I'm starting to wonder if I'm the one that's nitpicking, or if this is just going to be the new standard for the United States.
Pre-check and global entry programs are designed to speed up screening for approved travelers. But late Saturday night, TSA issued a clarification saying pre-check remains operational.
Don't really know. Communication and changing minds and things like that can make things really difficult to predict, difficult to plan.
The confusion stems from the partial government shutdown that began February 14th after lawmakers failed to reach a deal to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's why DHS initially said it was taking emergency measures to preserve limited funds, including ending pre-check lanes and global entry services to refocus personnel.
Get it together. Why is it shut down, right?
Meanwhile, travelers here in San Diego are watching closely, concerned about potential delays if staffing levels shift.
I mean, I'd be pissed because, like, you pay the fee to have TSA pre-check and you expect it to last.
So again, I know that most of you guys watching right now, this is not going to apply to you even if you have a Nexus, because we're just simply not going down. But if you do intend to go, I would highly advise you keep an eye on the status of the pre-check. Otherwise, just be prepared to wait in line. Now, I want to move on to a podcast that CBC's Ian Hamansing did a few days ago. No, wait, he did yesterday. Anyways, in this podcast, he also featured Wayne Smith from the Toronto Metropolitan University, who has also been on my channel a couple times as well. And I plan to do a live stream with him in the future to do a Q&A session for the community. So I want to do a replay of Wayne's segment in the podcast so that everybody else can hear. Let's get started.
Yeah, really nice having you on the show. So beyond that big drop in car trips to the U.S., what other numbers tell you that Canadians are pulling back on U.S. travel?
Well, we start looking at this and we're starting to see, like, when we're taking a look at Canadians to the USA, total is down 21.5% from last year to this year. And then when we start looking at some of the really interesting numbers are some of the credit card numbers. So credit card spending in 3 of the northern states were all down between 40 and 50%.
Wow.
Showing, and the other thing we're starting to see is some of the tax numbers come out. So Nevada and Florida live off of tourism taxes. So not having the snowbirds, not having the Canadians who are staying longer is affecting their tax and their tax structure quite a bit.
Now, if you ask me, I think this is the next big thing that we're going to be seeing in the media. We've already seen a few, and I've done a few reports on them in the past, where city budgets were starting to get cut, which also means that employees are being let go as well. If I recall, that last report that I did was on San Diego, and there have been a few more that you guys have sent me, but I haven't been able to do a report on them yet. But I'm keeping a close eye on Nevada as well as Florida for the reports coming out saying that they have to do major budget cuts because of the lack of tourism tax.
And, you know, part of what that tells me, Wayne, or suggests to me anyway, is that, you know, taking this stand is having obviously an economic impact, but in turn it may end up having a political impact, right? Because I've already seen Washington state officials, for example, lament the lack of trips by Canadians. And you got to think that some of these people and the businesses are putting pressure on their federal representatives and saying, look, you got to make some changes here because this is really hurting us. I don't know if you've looked into that at all.
Yeah, this is very much a soft power kind of idea too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people around the world, they wanted to go to the U.S. It was the place you wanted to be. And now there's a lot of worry around the world. And there's even YouTube sites like Guard the Leaf who are just dedicated to talking about this boycott and whole communities that are discussing it. And these are all ways that are negatively affecting the way people will perceive the U.S. and people will travel to the U.S. And it's affected political power as a result of that as well. And we're starting to see some of that. We saw that with the last Canadian election.
I really appreciate the shout out, Wayne. I am wondering, though, how many people are wondering what the heck is a garde de leaf?
And now, as a professor at TMU's School of Hospitality and Tourism, you look at this from a research-based academic perspective. And so what are you seeing is driving these decisions not to travel to the United States?
I think it's kind of threefold. People don't realize the hospitality and tourism is a safety and security industry. If you don't feel safe and you don't feel secure in where you're going to go, you're probably not going to go there. And so I think there's kind of a three thing. I call it a misalignment of values, where Canadians are seeing the values that are displayed by the political folks in the U.S. as misaligning with us. So, for example, the views upon diversity, inclusion, how they're throwing that out, that's misaligns with a lot of Canadian values. The whole ICE thing and the idea of just pulling people because they're certain races, and that's going to affect Canadians. We're going to look at that and say, that just isn't right. It's a misalignment with our values. And these are the types of things that lead people to say, okay, I'm not going to feel secure if I go there. I'm not going to feel safe. I'm not going to feel welcome. And I want to be able to spend my money. I'm going to vote with my wallet. And voting with your wallet in a capitalist system is the strongest way you can vote.
And every single person that is watching my channel or has been supporting my channel since the beginning is voting with their wallet. Because in some sort of way, whether it's a vacation or even boycotting a product or canceling a subscription, every single penny that we're not spending in the United States contributes. This is one of the few boycotts that I have seen in my lifetime that hasn't died down. Earlier today, I went for lunch with a coworker. He's a local here in Malaysia. He actually said, I used to want to go to the United States because it looks fun. But now, I don't think I want to go anymore. It looks just a little bit too crazy. Let that sink in.
Yeah, over the years, I've heard so many people threaten boycotts against, a certain product or a certain company, and they usually fizzle out. But this decision not to travel seems to be an actual, well, it is. Like you've cited the statistics, and we are seeing evidence that it's having a political impact as well. Maybe not all the way to the White House, but partway to the White House. So Air Transat and WestJet have cut routes to U.S. cities. Tell us more about how the industry is reacting to this.
Well, we've seen some real interesting industry notes. What's really going to be fascinating over the next little while is they just because of the shutdown reduced all the airports to Nexus lane. So that's going to be closed for the next little while until the drop off is done. So that's going to be really fascinating. I'm just taking a quick look here at the overall flights going down. I have the numbers sitting right here. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing is basically every single airline is in double digits, reducing the amount of flights to the U.S., all the Canadian industries. It's actually really interesting. You used to be able to get direct flights to Los Angeles and New York or places really easily. You're now more and more, if you're flying to the U.S., you're going to have to make a connection.
Now, this is a really good point that Wayne brought up, is that the usual routes that we're used to may not be there anymore. Because the last one that I saw was canceled. I think it was Montreal to Seattle. Seattle's not a small town. And if you want to go there from Montreal, you might have to stop in Denver or somewhere else before you can actually get there. So in turn, it's actually starting to get harder to travel in the United States. And we have the boycott to thank for that.
And that's going to be the big change for a lot of Canadians. Where you used to be able to fly direct, you're now going to have to take and do a connecting flight somewhere.
Yeah. We're here live with Wayne Smith, a professor and the director of the Institute for Hospitality and Tourism Research at Toronto Metropolitan University. And Wayne, any sense of how long you expect this decline in cross-border travel to last?
This kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Like, while I'm originally Canadian and I'm from Toronto and grew up here, I lived in the States for 15 years. And just like Mr. Williams, I had the exact same experience as him before I got my green card. And now whenever I've ever crossed the border, they ask me, why did I ever give back a green card? Like, it's so incredulous. So it is one of those things. I get the nervousness and I get the feelings of it. And I think this is going to last as long as people feel like you only want us for our wallets. No one wants to say, hello, friend, come see me as long as you're paying for dinner.
Yeah.
Wayne, I know you're watching this, and I do want to thank you for saying that. Because I do feel that in the media, both sides of the border, that element is always missing from their reports. It's the fact that, how do I say this? It's the fact that we know that many US businesses really only miss us because the money's not coming anymore. Sometimes I do wish the media would just straight up and ask, do you miss the Canadian money? Is that what it's all about? Because I have reviewed hundreds of reports since I started this channel, and I don't think I've ever seen one where there was a US business that was struggling that mentioned that they decided to come up to Canada to help us because of our friendship. To me, it's always a one-way thing. And we always hear, when you're ready to come back, which that really pisses me off. And it makes me want to boycott even more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Whenever you hear a company or a tourism official say, when you're ready to come back, does that trigger you as it does for me?
So there's a lot of sense of that across Canada, that you don't really want us, you want our money. And
although
that's a negative thing.
There's another element to this. Like, there's so many different issues, right? There's the concern about what might happen at the border. There is for many people, as you described, this misalignment of values. There is real concern about how a Canadian would be received in certain parts of the country. But there are other parts of the United States, like Seattle, like New York City, like Chicago, where I think a lot of Canadians would feel at home in a way, right? So that kind of complicates things too, doesn't it?
Well, the thing about it is when we're talking about safety and security, there's, if you think about the old Dr. Seuss poem, there are some streets that some people choose to go down and some people that don't. And depending on who, how safe you feel, right? Because different people have different levels of safety, and they have different perceptions of that. So, I try not to be too judgmental on it. Like, for me, I know even in my position, I have such a struggle about whether or not I want to go down to the U.S. or not. There is a definite misalignment of values. I'm on the media, and I don't always say nice things about this certain orange man. And I know I would get stopped at the border and be asked about it, right? Mm-hmm. So it is something like that. However, I have friends down in the States that I truly love and care for, and I've had like 15, 20, 30-year relationships with. Mm-hmm. So if there was ever an emergency and one of them needed me, what do you do as a friend, right? Yeah. So this is the things that we start talking about, vacation versus emergency versus business travel. This gets really complicated really quickly. So when you start seeing some of the judgmental stuff, and I agree, some of it, when you're talking about misalignment of values, it is a big deal. Yeah. If you're LGBT, I have a kid who's, trans. I don't want to be in a position where I'm supporting someone who would be anti-them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Wayne, thank you very much.
Now, going back to what Ian said about how there's certain cities in the U.S. that we might feel comfortable in, like, say, Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, primarily blue cities. Wayne did cover the main thing that I was going to bring up, which is the fact that I don't want to support somebody or their business that may have voted for the Orange McNugget. But as the days and weeks and months go by, I'm starting to see, at least this is my opinion, I'm starting to see more layers of this onion that is showing me that even in these blue states, blue cities, there are reasons for me not to go as well. And being a content creator with an open inbox that anybody can email, I am getting emails from those who are opposing the Orange McNugget and his followers, getting mad at me for my content, when in fact they should be getting mad at their fellow citizens. So again, it's just more layers to the onion that are being peeled right now. Now, there's a lot more I want to say, but this video is already longer than I wanted it to be, and I didn't even get to the other callers that were on the podcast. I'll have to do that in another video. But before I end this video, thank you again, Wayne, for the shout out. I really appreciate it. Maybe one day, Guard the Leaf will be known all over the place. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian perspective, and even an international perspective, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below, so that way you're notified of my future videos. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next one.